Hey, 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 what is good, my good people? You know what time it is. You know where you is. You know who I is, and you know what this is. Oh my goodness. Yes, it is that time once again for the I Am the Possible podcast experience. Yes, this is the place where possibilities become perspective. Guys, welcome once again into the I Am the Possible universe. I want to thank you guys so much for rocking with me once again. I am super duper excited, and I'm going to just jump right into this, guys. We're kicking off season 6 with an amazing guest. Now, here's what's special about this situation. These, really all of season 6, which is a good thing. Okay. I'm a little backlogged. And so these episodes that I'm about to start rolling out in season 6, these have been recorded over the last year. So it's been a long time coming. But I promise you, everything has a time, everything has a season. It's been a roller coaster, okay? But nevertheless, right? I may be delayed, but not denied, guys. And so I am super excited about introducing some amazing people to you in this new season. Again, every Wednesday, that's going to be the bonus track. That's going to be my personal episode where I pour into you all of the things that I am learning and just really helping you to regulate and to elevate in your personal and professional lives. And then on Sundays, guys, this is where we're going to highlight our special guest, someone who's going to come in with experience and expertise and just an amazing or with such amazing experiences to share and just so much edifying content. So I'm just super excited about this. And so listen, I want to kick it off. All right. This is the first one right out the gate. Let me introduce you to Dr. Juliette Nelson. All right. Now, again, these were recorded over the last year. So when you watch the video, if you're on the tube, and you should be on the tube, if you're watching, you may notice, right, that the setup is a lot different. My location is a lot different. But as we continue to plow through season 6, you're going to begin to see this setup if you're watching the tube, because I began to transition kind of about midway from where I was and from the mic setup and everything to this setup. So just wanted to kind of throw that out there just to let you know, if you're wondering like, things look a little different. Terrell looks a little different. The setup looks a little different. Well, that's why. Okay. But again, delayed, but certainly not denied. So let's get into this. Dr. Juliette Nelson. Let me start off with the mission: empowering people and supporting their journeys in stepping out as their best authentic selves and walking in their purpose. Guys, oh my goodness, you are in for a treat. She is a master storyteller. She is a world traveler. She is highly educated, and she is a giver. She is a contributor, like I love to say, to the betterment of our society. And I cannot wait for you to hear these stories, to get these insights from such a brilliant individual. So let me read her bio and let's get right into this week's episode. Dr. Juliette Nelson is a industrial and organizational psychology practitioner, educator, entrepreneur, and published author who is passionate about empowering people to achieve the highest standard of their purpose. She is the founder and CEO, and I hope I'm getting this name right. Okay, some of these names are just as unique as she is. Okay, but unique in a very good way. All right, trust me. But she is the founder and CEO of Junery, a learning and development company, Junery Publishing, and Neurolenses, a handcrafted wooden eyewear company. All right. Hopefully I got that all right. All right. Of course, I'm going to be putting links in the show notes. And if you're on the tube, links down in the description field for you to click on and for you to go and find out more about these amazing companies. And you're going to be hearing about them also within this episode. So let me finish up here. Given her experiences, she is intentional, and I love this, intentional about being an agent of motivation, inspiration, and encouragement to the world around her. And I would add empowerment to those around her. She empowered me. She inspired me. She motivated me. This is one of those guests where I as soon as the recording was over, I just sat and just pondered the things that the things that she exposed me to, the ideas, the information. And I believe even back then, I immediately recorded a video just to say how much I appreciated her, and I appreciated the wisdom that she not only, has within her, but the wisdom that she is so, and this is really most importantly, the wisdom that she's willing to share with other people. So that's it, man. Without further ado, let's flow. As I always do, I record this intro separately from the actual interview. So let's flow right into my interview with Dr. Juliette Nelson. You guys be blessed. So, just, getting into this, one of the things that I'm most fascinated with, and I love to highlight in people's lives, and you can start wherever you want to start, however you want to start it, but can you share in whatever context you desire, what was your earliest struggle in life, and what was your earliest success in life? And normally how that would look would, normally someone would kind of share childhood or just memories, but early on, what was that thing that challenged you the most about being who you are? And then what was that first success? Like, I got over this thing, I got through this thing, I was able to overcome this thing. If you can just take us through some of those memories, some of those thoughts, and just organically share however you feel.
Right.
You feel that.
And if I want to say my earliest struggle, and I don't think it really kicked in until my adulthood. Therapy does that to you. If I would say my earliest struggle, I was bullied as a child. And I think it informed a lot of how I showed up as an adult, from like teenagehood to an adult. To say the least, I'll say that that's the earliest struggle that I'm willing to share. So I realized that, like, as I progressed, I was bullied a lot in school, right? I remember being bullied because I was slow. I remember being pushed around a little bit. There were times I didn't have any friends, and so on and so forth. I was blessed to be surrounded by like my neighborhood friends and cousins, because usually in the Black family unit, whether it's African, Afro-Caribbean, African-American, it's your cousins. You grow up with your cousins, and more than likely they become your siblings. So I grew up, I was blessed to have those in my life, but I was bullied. That was really it. I was bullied. I was often singled out. And I think that was one of the experiences that caused me to constantly, in a sense, look myself in the mirror and say, whatever you think you're feeling, you're not feeling it. So just go and just go and be excellent, in a sense. And I think it was like, almost like mentally, you start to tell yourself whatever, you don't necessarily process things. I think that's what it was. I don't think as a child being bullied in school or whatever, I didn't take the time to process it. I did have a mother who pulled up to the school several times. So some kids knew, and they were put on notice, don't mess with Mrs. Nelson's child. And I'm grateful for that. And I didn't realize how grateful I should have been for that. Because I was even teased because my mom, kids knew my mom was going to show up. So I think it was kind of like, eventually it's like you kind of block away that frustration or whatever. And then as an adult, you find that when you are going through difficult times, I started to take on those same behaviors of, if I'm not feeling well, I'll look myself in the mirror and say, but you are feeling well. Now go direct this children's choir of 100 kids, even though you know you're not feeling well, and go do it. And so I kind of learned to function in almost autopilot in many senses. And I think as an adult, I think COVID did that for many. I think I learned that a little earlier, but it was like, wow, I've had these experiences that kind of shaped how I step out, and I need to slow down a little bit so I can process how things make me feel and how things impact me. So I would say that was perhaps my earliest struggle in a sense.
Yeah, you're right.
My earliest, you said my earliest success.
Yes. Look back.
Ooh, I guess some people might perceive, I was a smart kid. I was in all honors classes and so on and so. So I think some people would perceive that as my earliest success. I think for me, one of the earliest things that I would say I was most proud of, and I'm just thinking off the spot, it was my ability to go to South Korea and teach. And I think it was successful because that was my first home away from home. And I like to give the disclaimer, I'm a proud Haitian American, so it doesn't take away from my identity.
Right.
But I know Haitians say we bleed red and blue because those are our colors. However, South Korea was my home away from home. After I graduated from high school, I didn't go away to college. I went to a college that was close by, so I stayed home. And so South Korea became the place where I really redefined who Juliette was. And that's where the beginning of my discovering my purpose started. And that's why I say that was my earliest success, because that experience informs all of what people see today. The eyewear company, Junuri Publishing. The name Nuri came from a Korean name that was given to me in South Korea, Nanuri, which means to share. And my pastor had given it to me with the commission to share my gift wherever I go. And so I kind of held that commission close to my heart and close to me. And it was really like this reawakening where I was supposed to leave South Korea and go to law school. I was going to be the family lawyer. I was going to do international or corporate business law or corporate law. There we go. And, my parents are proud. I'm like seeking out mentorships and everything like that. I will admit I did take like the LSAT, the test exam or something like that. The practice exam. Okay. And I did 2 questions. I was like, no, we need a break. What is this?
Right.
Break. And that was it. I never revisited it. I didn't do any practice questions. Wow. Never. And while I was in Korea, I was like, wait, I graduated with my business degree. I really want to see what I can do with this business degree. And it took me some time, right? But I think in terms of success is not, it's not static. It doesn't have one definition. So I think that was that one thing where and a lot of people didn't, I don't think they really, they thought it was the best idea. I'll say that. I don't want to say people thought I was going to fail or whatever, but this Haitian kid coming from a dot on the map that doesn't really exist in a sense, like Spring Valley, New York is where I'd come from. Nobody knows Spring Valley, New York. It's upstate, as people from New York City call it. Even though it's like 45 minutes away from New York City, but who's paying attention? So it was like, what is this little Haitian kid from Spring Valley, New York doing, going halfway across the world? And of course, it's such a large distance. So there's a lot of ignorance in a sense of not knowing what this culture is about. It just seems so far. And so for me, I consider it successful because even when people kind of questioned and doubted and so on and so forth, and even though I didn't know what I was doing until the plane was flying over Japan, I think that was one of those things where I was like, this is something I'm doing for myself. This is a risk that I'm taking, and it's bold, but guess what? It's something that I don't think I'm going to regret, and I don't regret it. So long, short version.
No, that's awesome. No, it just brings up so many other questions. Like, what did you teach over there? What was the curriculum?
Taught English. I taught English. It was I grew up Seventh-day Adventist. So I taught at a Seventh-day Adventist English academy. And that was even challenging because I'm not a person who likes to argue religion, and they're like, no, you're required to teach a religion class and so on and so forth. But I said, I'm gonna put a spin on it. Ironically, I mean, even now we're talking success. Ironically, I showed up the day before class, the night before class started. They booked my ticket on Friday. I never knew when I was leaving until like maybe a day or two before. So I was spending months saying goodbye to people, not knowing, like getting visas and everything, but my ticket wasn't booked. So you're kind of planning and not knowing when you're leaving. And so the day when it was getting close to like a few days before, they're like, well, you need to show up for the first day of class and we're booking your ticket. And unfortunately, all the chicken and everything that my mom seasoned for me couldn't get past customs. But my castor oil made it, but not my seasoned meat. Anyway, so yeah, I showed up. I missed orientation because teachers were supposed to start, I think, like a couple of weeks prior. I missed orientation, so I'm coming with a blank slate. I shadowed one class. And I remember them saying, okay, here's your schedule. And I had to teach a class, and I was given a religion class. And I remember with my English class, they didn't, I guess maybe in a sense of out of showing respect, because, Korea has a very strong honorific culture where there's a lot of respect and honor for authority. Okay. And so I'm more of an open book, I'm from New York. If you guys going to say it to my face.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm getting feedback from the coordinator of the school, and they're like, well, this is what your students are saying. They're saying you're talking too fast, and they're saying this and they're saying that. Right. They think you're really cool, but these are their challenges. And because I didn't go through orientation, I can't get upset about it. Right. I've got to really address it now. Yesterday. This is not something where I got 3-6, like you can't put me on a performance improvement plan for me to address it in 90 days. It has to happen yesterday because I'm walking into that classroom and these adults and children need to learn. So it really took me thinking on my feet. Even with religion classes, I don't know. Sometimes with debates on religion, sometimes people take things, make things personal. And I think there's space for us to hear everyone's perspectives, even if it's not in line with what we agree with. And I think some folks would disagree with that, but that's okay. So I wanted to make sure that I could create a space where, yes, I could be myself as a believer in God, but I could also hold space for the experiences of other students who either don't believe in God, who might believe but don't practice the same way I do, and so on and so forth. And so I was able to kind of gather materials that facilitated discussion. And I also combed into like those parts of the Bible that are very, like any human would agree with them, if that makes sense. And so those facilitated conversation. And then with my English classes, I took their entire curriculum and I started just creating PowerPoints out of them. So I had to create my own lesson plan to make it mine. It was like, okay, Juliette, you're going to make this yours. And remember, in the United States, kids who learn English, being born and raised in the United States, you learn it by ear. And I always say this, we need to respect people who speak English as a second language more, because they speak better English than we do. Their pronunciation might be different, but remember, they learn it grammatically. We learn it by ear. So we're picking up the slang, we're picking up the colloquialisms, we're picking up the idioms, and it's not to belittle, right? Slang or it's not to belittle that. But I think that's where we often miss the mark in learning grammar, in learning sentence structure, in learning vocab, where they are required to do that because that's the only way they'll pick up the language. And so I remember they would ask me questions about, oh, Miss Juliette, is this the past participle? And I'm like, listen, I'm here to teach you conversational English. What are you talking about past participle? And they're asking me all these progressives and this, and I'm like, listen, I got to go back and learn the language that I thought I could speak so that I can teach it to them. So that's where it was like taking the book that they handed me and making it and catering it to my students to meet their needs and actually giving them a fulfilling learning experience. So I spent, I want to say 4 months. And then I went back to New York to spend time with my family for 2 months. And this is where the success comes in, because when I returned, both my English and religious classes were filled to capacity. And I'm talking, I had Buddhists, atheists, Muslims in my class, my religion class.
Here or there?
Huh? No, they showed up. They had to turn students away. And this was, I showed up to, I left, it's my first day, trying to set up my class and everything like that.
Right.
And I don't know all of the students. I'm not the popular teacher. I'm not the seasoned teacher. I was just there for 4 months trying to figure myself out. And they're like, no, Miss Juliette, your classes are filled to capacity. And I remember walking in and they're calling saying, oh, I want to sign up for Miss Juliette's class, or Teacher Juliette's class, as they called it. So I would consider that a success, because I kind of had to, that's the iAMthepossible. Is that what it is?
Yeah. That's the company. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm able to take the little bit that I have and turn it into something. And so I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for the experience. I'm very grateful because I also stood ready to learn from my students. And I think that's something important for leaders to understand, for teachers to understand, for parents, for people in positions where there are other people looking to them. You have to be in a position where you're willing to learn, right? Because that's the only way you can understand how to be a steward, how to serve, how to meet people's needs. So again, another long, short.
No, I'm loving it. No, it's so rich. It's like, okay, scrap all my little questions over here. I want to dive into this because it's like, but there's so much there.
Right.
Honestly, when you flow with your sharing the way that you share, there's so much to pull out of that. Let me ask you, because I'm fascinated by this, how did that experience shape, or because earlier you alluded to that success, that experience, in a sense, parlayed or contributed to what you see today in terms of what you've been able to create, the various companies, which we will get into in just a moment. But what did you take away from that experience that you think was instrumental in you getting to where you are now? Because, and this is something that I didn't mention to you directly, but in terms of, your credentials and everything, that's something that I record separately. And so I just kind of do a separate introduction for that. But within that context, what do you take from that experience that you see contributing to everything that you've created and what you're currently doing?
I don't even want to say what did I take. It's what did the experience give me? Because it was seeds being planted, and I didn't know that. It was seeds. There were things when they say like you have to speak life into people, that stuff is real. Sometimes the words we say have so much power. And so I would say working in South Korea was just seed planting. And that's what it gave me. So again, I'm making these small little decisions, and I think that's a challenge too. When you get right out of high school and you're 18 and you're 20s, you're having to make permanent decisions based off of a future that is so uncertain, and we change and we evolve so much, right? So I think I was just in that space. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and I don't think I'm brave enough to go to law school. Part of the reason why I went to South Korea because I didn't have jobs lined up like the rest of my peers. They're like, oh, well, I'm going to this school and that school, and this company hired me. And I'm like, here I am with I still got my job at Marshall's or something, So I think Korea may have been, the escape in a sense, or that thing that made me feel, oh, okay, I do have something to go to. But yeah, it was just seeds being planted. I decided I was no longer going to law school. I want to see what the business thing has for me. I had the opportunity to direct the children's choir. And they don't speak my language, I don't speak theirs, but we made it work. We spoke in both English and Korean. And I had to learn the language to meet them where they were, just those little things. I discovered that I can buy glasses for a very cost affordable price, eye exam, lens, everything included. And that's where I was able to kind of step out as myself. I felt like I was accepted just as I was. I could get glasses in any color, any shape, any size. And of course, I'm Black. I'm the dot, in South Korea. What are you going to tell me? You know what I mean? Of course there's the expectation is to adjust to respect the culture, but you can't change who you are. And I think that was also the beauty in that experience. I think the Black experience in the United States, sometimes you constantly feel cast off, right? Belittled, cast off. You feel and I'm talking about the negative parts of the experience. You know, the Black experience, I would never trade it for anything. But I think living in a different country where literally they don't see people like me on a daily basis, that for me, it was like, you just got to take me as I am. Right? Yes, there are things that they might say. And this is not to say that there isn't bias and prejudice and racism in other parts of the world. But when you're in this place where you're kind of considered exotic and it's based on someone's ignorance, there are opportunities for you to teach, for you to say, no, the whole Americans don't like rice. That doesn't apply to West Indians. We love rice and bread. You know what I mean? Because they were just small little things that they assumed was just a blanket across the culture. And I'm like, no, in the United States, you have different colors, different skin tones, different races, different cultures. You know, you might have a Nigerian who's different from a Ghanaian, who's different from a Haitian, who's different from a Jamaican, who's different from an African American from New Orleans, who's different from an African American from New York City. You know, there's so much culture to us, and there's more to us. So that, I think it just allowed me to be myself. And again, now when I come back to the United States, I'm like, I've had this experience. I'm gonna keep riding on this train. I'm gonna keep riding on this train. So even when students were like, Juliette, teacher Juliette, you should continue teaching. I said, no, I'm not doing that. And I said, I swore about it. I was like, I'm not going to be a classroom teacher. My father's a teacher, and that's cool. And I did want to be a teacher at a point, and I threw that away for a trivial reason as a kid. But I said, I'm okay. I can't. It's hard for me not to be able to discipline kids that are not my kids. So I'll pass on that. But what happens is, years later, I end up needing a side job because I moved to the DMV with just my car and a basket of clothes for my new little government job. And of course, you're a new renter, so you have to buy furniture and so on and so forth. I took up tutoring, and I had to make that my own. All those things I'd learned from teaching English and also tutoring, you know, in high school and all that. Now, or in middle school, and elementary school, now I'm taking those and literally having to create a personalized learning experience for my students, right? That's where I was able to even work with my friends and you know, check their papers, you know, for school and so on and so forth. So it informed a lot. And that's what continued to plant the seeds for what we now know as Junuri, that offers academic, professional, and organizational learning and development services. So again, it's like seed planting. Me going to the eye doctor in South Korea, finding out, oh, I can get these nice fashionable glasses, but meet my vision needs, planted the seeds for what we now know as Nuri Lens. You know, so just like planting seeds, and just the part of like the lens, right? Seeing through that planted the seeds for now what we know as Junuri Publishing in my first book, sharing my lens about the college experience. So yeah, it's really about what Korea gave me and not really what I took away, because I didn't know what I was doing at all. And I'm seeing it now, you know, and I remember praying, and I was like, God, maybe my purpose is to reach people. I said, use me to reach people all over the world from different cultures and different backgrounds. And here I am, a certified diversity executive. What? No, you don't know what and I think sometimes this world constantly causes us to be a little more tunnel vision, right? Where we're always expecting this linear path out of life, or we're working at this job where we don't feel appreciated, which is very valid, because I'm an industrial and organizational psychologist. So I'm very intentional about ensuring that organizations are meeting their employees' needs. However, it's like you're asked to do this other task. You're not getting paid for it. You're frustrated, but you don't know how that skill is going to plant the seeds for what you need down the line. And I think that's what I've experienced. And not to say that every experience was positive, but I've been able to really use everything I learned to inform who I am today.
It's just amazing. You are amazing. This
thank
story
you.
is amazing. Your perspective is it's captivating. It's not what I took, what they gave, the seed planting. There's that thread. And I love how you're just organically sharing about your company, because I definitely want to highlight each of those and get a little bit more into those, because I want people to know what you offer and who you are, and how to contact you. But my goodness, it's that perspective, because I have a passion for perspective.
Yes.
And sometimes that linear and that sometimes you get caught up in what you're providing or what you're sharing with the world. And you actually, this is just me personally sharing, you actually think that you have a lock on what people need.
Mm-hmm.
What you just shared is not what I took.
It's what was given to you.
What was sold to me. And the thread, they sold this became, this happened here, it became, this happened here, it became, and it began from a space of, I'm doing something that I don't even know how to do, why to do it. I'm just doing it. And I'm open to whatever God wants to manifest, to unfold.
Yep.
That is amazing.
And that's what I always encourage people. Like, whether you believe in the tree, the universe, Allah, whoever it is, if you have a purpose, if you're purposed to do something, walk in that purpose. And I share this story on podcasts. I remember applying for a program manager job. It would have been a promotion. And I came in with my A game, spreadsheets and portfolios and infographics, 30, 60, 90. I was ready to bring it. Okay. I didn't get the job. In 24 hours, the hiring manager called me. I'm the selecting official. They said, listen, you did amazing. And they said, you have the potential, but I think you didn't have as much experience as I needed. I've never been so offended walking out of a job rejection. And it happens, right? It happens. We get job rejection. Some of them, it might be for a job we wanted a little bit more, but I'd never been so offended. And I'd been rejected for jobs where they give you a second, third, fourth interview. And even then I was like, it wasn't for me. But this time I was so offended. And again, going back to speaking life into people, since I was a kid, my father always called me doctor, lawyer, or president. Doctor, lawyer, or president. I am now Dr. Juliette Nelson.
Yes.
I am the president of my own right. I'm a CEO.
That's right.
That's right. So, and I should have been a lawyer in another life. So, but all to say, I remember calling my father and I said, Daddy, the only thing I said, how dare she reduce me to a program manager? I said, my daddy always called me doctor, lawyer, or president. How dare you reduce me to a program manager? And I realized I was so offended by it, because there's a difference between potential and purpose, right? Potential is man-made. That's why they say you don't date men or women for potential, right? Oh, they have a potential to make this much money or to be more ambitious or to do this. You do not date someone for potential. And unfortunately, we put potential on ourselves, right? Correct. We keep asking kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a nurse. I want to be a this. That's limiting. Right? Because what happens when they get to college and they're in nursing school or they are studying public health or whatever, and just because of what they're learning, they don't care about the whole nursing thing. But when you look at purpose, it's meeting an objective, right? So now, even if I don't do it as a nurse, I can do it as a fitness instructor, I can do it as a dietitian, I can do it as a consultant, independent or internal. There are so many ways you can fulfill your purpose. And so even as a kid, when I walked in, and that's how I let go of the whole teacher thing, where I walked into class, 6th grade, we came, I think it was like Superintendent's Day, and we came in from our day off, and we're asking our teacher, oh, what did you do on your day off? And she was like, no, teachers don't get day off. That's learning and for professional development for us. I threw the whole thing away. I was like, what's not about to happen is these kids get a day off and I have to come in for professional development. And I threw it away. But I became a children's choir director. Until today, I teach children music. I've been doing it for half my lifetime. Children's choirs to over 100 kids. I've worked with youth choirs. I've worked with choirs with members who were twice my age, right? You facilitate this relationship where they feel like they belong, where they feel encouraged to participate. I've offer training in the workplace and learning. And you know what I mean? So the teaching didn't have to be limited to a classroom. I still fulfilled my purpose, right? And I think that's why it's so important for us to look at, what is this experience giving me as well? You know, and when we allow ourselves to be like, what is the purpose in this? We can also see how we learn so much from the experience. Even living in another country, now teaching English, Voisin is also now the tool that's going to teach Haitian Creole to Haitian language speakers. So again, you got to think in a purpose-driven approach, right? What is this experience giving me? Where is this leading me? Even if it's not now, it's frustrating, and I'm gonna work to get myself out. But in the meantime, what is the purpose in this?
Yeah, just as you were saying that, because I'm a content creator and I create all types of stuff. Listening to that just really sparked an idea that's purpose-driven, purpose-driven perspective, purpose-driven kind of framework. That ability to look at wherever you are, whenever you're there, through a lens of my purpose and what is this contributing to that purpose, or how am I able to live out my purpose? Again, situation is still hard, still difficult, but you're able to process it through a different perspective, which allows you to endure it because you see how it's beneficial, you see how it's adding value, you see how you're contributing to the moment, rather than I'm just stuck in this situation and why me, and you spiral into the things aren't how you want them to be. That's a powerful perspective.
And it's also not to say that you can't say why me. Say why me. Be upset. Be mad. But while you're being mad, also learn from it, right? And I've learned that, in experiencing unhealthy work environments, for example. I've been in that situation where I'm like, why me? This is overwhelming. I don't want to do this. But you learn so much from that, because it's like, how could I help the next person? Am I going to teach them how to advocate for themselves? Is this something I can do in my research to contribute to a healthier work environment, right? If I came from a trauma or an abusive relationship or a lost opportunity, how do I now make an impact so the next person after me doesn't have to experience that? And I know we in Black History Month. I don't want to sound too woke, y'all, but it's our month.
That's
even think of our ancestors, right? Imagine if they were on the field, on the porch, in the house, right? Getting beat, whipped, demeaned, raped, whatever it is, and constantly saying, why me? Imagine if Harriet Tubman said, why me? I'm Haitian. Imagine if Toussaint Louverture and Jean-Jacques Dessalines said, why me? We wouldn't be here today. For them, it was like, listen, we might not see this, but our seed's gonna see it. And that's the why. That's the purpose in this. We might be 10 feet under or, decomposed, but somebody's going to see it. So the fight is worth it. And I think that's where purpose comes in, where you may not see it now and you may not see it ever, but that could also be part of the legacy that you're building.
So, wow. But your seed will see it.
I mean, look at Chadwick Boseman. Passed away with no children, but his legacy is priceless.
Absolutely.
It is priceless. He has literally inspired young kings and queens, living, breathing, that he had no part to play in their conception, but the confidence and the hope that people have by seeing a fictional character that he portrayed, right?
Fictional,
right. But he's literally given so much hope to people throughout the entire Afro diaspora, and it speaks to his legacy and him fulfilling his purpose. As unfortunate as his passing was, he fulfilled his purpose. And he didn't, I'm sure he didn't know that he wasn't going to see, he doesn't know. But at the end of the day, the full extent, we can say there was so much more for him to do, and there was so much more for him to see, right? Look at all the accolades he got. But guess what? He has literally empowered people across the globe, across the entire globe. So again, it speaks to purpose. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded.
No. That's what this is for. No, that don't apologize. No. You're being who you are and you're flowing with it. And again, I try my best as I'm learning because I'm honestly in the process of learning how to have these conversations, how to
Right.
interview, how to bring people into my space. Because when I originally created this podcast, it was because I had so much in my heart to share. I needed an outlet because the
Yep.
pulpit, right? As my pastor says, there's only room for one on Sunday. And because I'm an associate pastor, I
Mhm.
get my turn 2-3 times a year,
Right.
but I'm not the senior pastor. So,
Right.
I don't have ample opportunities to preach, right?
Right.
So I created this space for seasons 1, 2, and 3 was really about just how can I continuously add value and share what's been put into my heart. I've learned in recent seasons that there are so many people like you that have so much value to add, not only to the people I'm serving, but to the people who I'm serving and who they're serving. Um, and so if I can open this space up and learn, because it's like learning how to ride a bike. I ride and fall off, I ride and fall off. So I'm learning how to have these conversations. And so no, ultimately, I want your voice to be heard. So
Right.
no need
And
to
I thank you for
apologize. The
sharing
flow,
that
the
as well.
flow.
I thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that part of yourself because I I have a lot of pastor friends as well.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I think there's always that struggle of how do I get like my big break, right? And
Oh,
sometimes you'll find that especially younger ones, they might form their identities by how many invitations am I getting to other churches? How many speaking invitations and how many this, how many that? But again, when you look at purpose, look at you literally having your own podcast and you can reach, even if you reached one person, it could change their entire life, and that's where purpose comes in because you're still fulfilling your purpose. Maybe it's not on the pulpit. And again, I'm so happy that you mentioned this because again, as a children's choir director, I used to be a praise team leader and doing all these things. And I remember the time that I decided to take a step back. I said, I can't do the performing. I still do the children's choir, but I'm not doing the big stage. And so people would invite me to sing and I would say, I'm sorry, I don't sing, I don't perform. And some of them would say, oh, well, you wasted your voice. Well, if it's wasted, I don't have it to use. Or, well, I hope God gives you a way to minister. But what about that coworker who calls me and they share something they're going through? And I say, is it okay if I sing and pray for you? It's not on a big stage, but it still has an impact, right?
yes,
Um,
yes.
and so for me, I've learned, even with stewardship, right? I've learned with ministry that all this time I was being a children's choir director and, driving to New York 4 hours, but my parents never see me in the whole weekend. And this went on for years. Now it's like, okay, maybe ministry looks like taking time to call my mother one day during her lunch break and say, can I pray for you? And I've done it before. My mom's like, you good? But it's still ministry, right? It's not done on it's not done on the pulpit. And so even with your podcast, that's it. And I don't know if you've heard of Tim Ross. He has a podcast called The Basement. And
Yes, I recently started to watch it.
finish it. Watch every episode because it's
Yes,
phenomenal.
he
And
is.
and
He's dope.
he also spoke about the difference between influence and impact, right? On an episode with, I believe it was Michelle Williams. And he spoke about an influencer who had so many followers, I believe on TikTok. And I guess there was this big event and they booked out a VIP room or whatever the case may be, and not one person showed up. And that shows the difference between the influence and the impact, because the impact is the ability to actually either transform a life or get people to move. And how you get people to move, it's not, static. Even Michelle, Michelle Williams saying that, she was on Destiny's Child, and I don't want to ruin it for you, but she was on Destiny's Child. And some people might think that because she's not doing exactly what she used to do, being in Destiny's Child, that she's not being impactful. And for her, she's like, I feel like I'm stepping into one of the greatest seasons of my life.
See?
And so she understands that she's still walking in her purpose and what she's called to do. It may not look like what she was called to do in a different season, but that doesn't mean that she's not walking in her calling. So again, I really appreciated that.
I love it. That's amazing. No, but just your take on things. Wow. Listen, I don't know who listen, that choir, your students, your clients, they are so blessed to be working with you because your perspectives are transformative. They absolutely are transformative. Just listening to you, like I could listen to you all day, and that's not flattery. That's not trying to, puff you up. That's not ego stroking. That's just honest. It's you have a cadence and you have a flow and you have a rhythm. You have an energy. You have a presence.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
That is so blessing. That is so encouraging. And some of my questions over here, two of them, so I'll kind of combine it, but two of them was around the empowering word, because as I looked through your website and as I looked through your content, you use the word empowering a lot. Yeah. And I love that word and I love what it means. Can you share, because I'm being present tense empowered by what you're sharing, like literally. And so when you say empowering people and supporting their journeys and stepping out in their there you go, as best authentic self. And then the other portion, I forgot where I pulled this from the website, empowering people to achieve the highest standards of their purpose.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you think is the key to empowerment? Like, what is it that you do, or how do you show up, or just however you want to express it? What do you think is the key to empowering an individual?
I believe in self-sufficiency to a very good extent, and it can look like different things. Even with and I think one of the earliest examples is like as a tutor, right? I've had adults, and I still do have adults who come and they're like, I just need you to edit this paper. And I'm like, no. We're not just editing this paper. Here are some of the gaps that I'm finding, right? I noticed that you have this type of research. You're only pulling research from websites. Do you know how to conduct proper research? And so we do a screen share, and now I give them a tour of their school's library. And now I have not just edited their paper, but I've helped them to walk away with the tools and skills so they can do it by themselves. You want to come back to me to give you some feedback and edits, I will do it. But I feel like I would still have failed if you don't walk away with at least some knowledge of how to do some part of it on your own. And that's where the empowerment comes, right? You also have the empowerment also comes with understanding that not everyone comes in with the same need. So remember the taking and the giving, right? Yes, you feel that you have something to give, right? That may not always be why someone came to take from you. And I learned that as a children's choir director. Right. Half of these kids, probably most of them, do not come because they care at all about learning music. They're going to do it because their parents told them to. And a lot of them are West Indian. So when the West Indian parent tells you go, you go, You go. But what I realized is for some of them, they don't see their friends during the school week, right? So they may have gone to the same private school or public school, but for others, they haven't seen them. So it's like a reunion. For others, it's that sense of community and belonging. And so even though I'm sharing my passion for music, for them, they're like, listen, it's a party, Miss Juliette. And so I've had to learn to adjust to that sense of community. I've had to have conversations with some of the more distracted ones and so on and so forth and say, what can I do for you? How can we make this beneficial? Because I'm tired. Wow. I'm not going to chase after you. And so for some of them, it's being able to have leadership. For some of them, it's being able to lead warm-ups or to be the vocal leader. For some of them, it's being the line leader. For some of them, you say, okay, I want you to line up the sopranos, and they take that job seriously, and they will show up to rehearsal and they will comply because they have a job to do. Right. But that's the empowerment, right? You are also considering another person's needs. You're also considering what are they walking away from this experience with, right? And it can't just be something that they will now still have to completely lean on you for, right? Yes. And this is my perspective. I understand that there, we have consultants and we have coaches and they charge for their services, rightfully so. But sometimes it's also helpful for someone to walk away knowing a little bit more than they walked in with. right? The same way we're called to make a place better than we found it. You want to walk away with a little bit more than you walked in with, you know? I think that's where the empowerment comes in. And even the highest standard of their purpose. I've really learned, and I'm gonna speak your language because now I hear you're associate pastor. I've had to go on this very difficult journey of recrafting my perception of God's love for me, right? And sometimes the church raises us, and I say this with love and compassion and grace. Sometimes the church raises us to look at God as punitive, evil, and just harsh, mean. And so what happens is, especially with young people, they mess up and they don't know that they can come back to that same God. Be like, man, I'm sorry, and I'm struggling. It's going to take me a long time to get out of this, but I need to kumbaya with you, right? And so I even look at my parents with all of the crazy things I've done, going to South Korea, moving to the DMV in 2 weeks, getting a job offer saying, yeah, I know you paid $3,200 for this Jerusalem trip, but sorry, money's wasted. I'm taking on this job. And my parents have never known what I was doing, but they've never abandoned me. Never. And I could still come back to them and say, Mom, Dad, I messed up. And of course, I have to hear the lecture, but that doesn't mean they don't love me, and they'll never let me question it. And so I've had to reframe God's love for me that way. And that helped me to reframe my love for self. 1 Corinthians 13, right? We always look at the love is patient, love is kind, but we don't look at that part about, even if I speak in tongues and even if I prophesy, if I don't have love, I'm just like a clanging cymbal, right? It doesn't mean anything. So the same way, think about it. How many times have we been kind to ourselves? How many times have we forgiven ourselves, right? For that person, let themselves make that bad decision, whatever it was. Did you forgive yourself when you did it? So if you can't do it for you, what makes you think you can do it for somebody else? And so that's where I started to learn, like, even selfish people, that doesn't mean they love themselves. Even self-centered people, that doesn't mean they love themselves. And that's why I try to say, it's okay for me to pour love into myself without having to say, be selfish, because not everyone that's selfish, in fact, loves themselves. It can be from a place of insecurity. With that being said, that's where you strive to be your best authentic self, because your authentic self sometimes can be trash. And I'm saying that because I had to tap into those parts of myself that were like, this is who you are, Juliette, but this isn't healthy and this isn't okay. And I still have to work through that, right? And so achieving the highest standard of your purpose is reaching the best that you can be, not the best that I feel you can be, right? Not that potential, but the best that you can be, the best version, the best level that God called you to be, or that whoever you report to calls you to be, right? And so that's where I come up with empowering to achieve the highest standard of their purpose. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And it comes from, again, learning to love yourself and having that self-reflection and self-awareness. It's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you have a short temper. It's okay if you snap. It's okay if you might be an obsessive liar. It's okay. We're human. We are human. But the important thing is that you're learning to evolve. You're learning to better love yourself and show yourself grace in a way that you can heal that person that's obsessed with lying. You can heal that person that's obsessed with stealing or having a short temper or indulging in whatever it is. You can slowly evolve that person and heal them. So now you can reach that highest standard, because again, we're always going to walk in our purpose. If you're called to lead, you are purposed as a father or as a husband or as a friend, right? You don't have to be the CEO or of a company or whatever, but you may not be the best father or the best friend, right? Doesn't make you horrible, right? Because you're still walking in your purpose. But when you're achieving that higher standard, it helps you to be a better steward, right? It helps you to serve better. It helps you to minister better, even in that space, no matter how much you perceive it. And I say perceive it to be big or small.
Wow.
So what's the next question?
Everyone is like its own, like, I'm gonna have to make you a 5-part series because everyone is so rich. Like every point is its own episode. It's its own show, because like you could unpack each one of those. That's That is
I'm sorry.
that
I
is
thought you had a
amazing.
list of questions.
Oh no, but those lists of questions. But see, I told you I'm learning, and you know how you'll see a trend on something, and it's like it's trying to hello. I'm showing you something here. The last three people that I've interviewed,
Mhm.
we've organically or spiritually or however you want to come up with it, we got off script. And I told the last person, I said, me and this box of interview style question, because that was never what I wanted. I just didn't want to
Right.
go too far off the path, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but I'm learning that I know, at least in my own experience, and what I enjoy is gleaming from conversations. And
Mm-hmm.
so the more we have a conversation, the more I'm actually tapping into what I'm trying to create anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So don't worry about these questions over here. These questions are very boxed in, and I just want to continue to have a conversation. But we are starting to kind of come to the close and kind of wrapping it up here. I'm looking at the time. So I do want to be sensitive to people's experience and different things, but I do want to give you the opportunity to share just a couple more things if you have the time, if it's
Sure.
okay. All right. So the first thing that I did want to ask, now going to, and again, I will include a thorough breakdown and a clear explanation of all of the companies that you,
Yes.
have created and that you
Yes.
head up in the separately recorded intro to this.
Mhm.
But when you look at all of the things that you are, the educator, the entrepreneur, the author, the CEO, the doctor, right? This leader, people that you lead, the people that you minister to. Can you share with us, because I think it's important for people, because this whole platform is all about the possibilities. And sometimes we dream of these huge possibilities, these things that we're going to do. We're going to take over the world. We're going to minister to
Right.
the world. We're going to do these big level things. We're going to level up and up level, and everything is about more, more, more. Okay,
Yes.
well, you have a lot going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you, if you can share some of the keys or maybe the one key, how do you maintain the capacity? How do you maintain the inner peace, the inner sanctuary, the inner care, the inner order to continue to bear the weight of having so much that is dependent upon you, having so much that you've created? And one thing I've learned is that the more we create, the more we're responsible in a sense for,
Uh-huh.
the more plates that we're spinning. How is it that you're able to maintain these things at such an excellent level? What are some of your secrets of your inner care?
And I say this with grace. I absolutely hate that question. So if any other person wants to interview, I hope you understand that I don't enjoy this question. And I will answer it though.
Okay.
It changes. If I'm being honest, it changes.
Yeah.
And I want to be very transparent and say it is very difficult. There are days that I do not have it and I hate it. There are days I do fight with God and I'm like, you can't be doing this. Absolutely not. And that's real.
Mhm.
I think people like to glamorize entrepreneurship. It is trash. It is hard.
Thank you.
It is hard. The dream is free, but the hustle is sold separately and it is expensive. Okay.
All right. All right.
And so what has allowed me at least to maintain my capacity? Fasting and prayer and therapy. I think those are the key things that have at least helped me maintain my sanity, even in the hardest. I started my therapy journey when my best friend committed suicide almost 6 years ago. Rocked my world. It's bad enough losing someone. Suicide hits you different. Suicide hits you really, really different. And so that's when I really started that journey. And unfortunately, his death uncovered so many things that I didn't realize. I just blocked off in my head. Remember, in the beginning, we spoke about, the early struggle, right? I didn't even know what bullying did to me until I started sitting through therapy. And I'm like, oh, wow, this really did actually impact me. So I've been on that journey, and I realized even in times that I'm okay, or I feel like I'm okay, I kept going to therapy the same way you go to your annual doctor's visit, the same way you go to your wellness visit, the same way you go to the dentist, the same way you go for those routine procedures, just to make sure you are good, right? The same way you make out your meal prep plan, right? All that. And you see a nutritionist, or you see a trainer and all that. I kept going to my therapist because even in the good times, I knew that those are the things that could set me up for when things did get bad. Part of that, and I mentioned that journey of learning to redefine and my perception of God's love for me, that it kickstarted a journey of reset for me. My pastor, Dr. Paul Graham, at the time, he preached a sermon series on a reset. And this was in the beginning of the year. And I was broken. I showed up. I showed up to church, and I cried through the whole service because it's like I can't. It's like a feeling of numbness, right? It's like there's folks who are hurting. They know they're hurting, and there's folks who are in a better place, right? So everybody kind of knows where they are with God, and here I am, just numb, not knowing. And I decided to start this fast. And one of the sermons he preached, he mentioned about fasting. And he said, why do we only fast when something's bad? Something's going wrong. Because we're only asking, right? We're pleading and in desperation or whatever. And I said, I don't want to be that person. So I set a pact with God, and I said, I'm going to fast once a quarter. And that becomes my reset, and it depends. Some people do the Daniel fast. Y'all, I love food. I love fried goat and chicken. So sometimes I'll fast from meat, but other times I'll fast from streaming, watching Korean dramas. Other times I'll fast from social media because I understand, right? It's kind of, you understand, and even like idolatry in the Bible. I think we like to focus on those specific, and I know some Seventh-day Adventists are going to be mad at me for this, like the jewelry, right? Right? But for me, I realized my idol isn't jewelry. I didn't grow up wearing jewelry, but my idol is work because I overwork and I'm a workaholic. So that fast causes me and forces me to step back from some of those things that feed the workaholic in me and to connect more with God.
Yes.
I meditate in the morning. I do devotionals. I write in a prayer journal, right? That's my way of surrendering. That's my way of release. And so with all those things together, that's how I'm able to balance everything. Now, again, it sucks. Sometimes it's harder. Sometimes I'm also having to balance life. So I try to be intentional about looking at every tool possible that will help me stay on course. So I write a to-do list in the morning. And sometimes the to-do list, depending on my headspace, it can be wake up and eat. It can be eat lunch. It can be brush your teeth. And y'all, I have proper hygiene. I do brush my teeth every morning. But the psychology is looking at this to-do list. If I saw that I crossed off brush your teeth, if I saw that I crossed off pray, if I saw that I crossed off, pause to pray halfway through the day, or devotion and meditation, if I saw that I crossed off, eat lunch, I'm seeing that things are getting done. I may not be productive or feel that I can be productive to the fullest extent that I want to, but I know I'm making some progress, and it gives me the motivation to achieve the bigger things on my list. That board that you see behind me, that's also my annual syllabus that my therapist had me do. So what I do is I write out my goals for the year. Those get broken up into goals for the quarter that help me achieve the goals for the year. Those get broken up into monthly milestones. So as I reach the monthly milestones, those help me move closer to the goals for the quarter, which help me move closer to the goals for the year. And every single month, I'm looking at my progress. If I know I'm not going to make it, right, I'm now able to show myself that grace and love and say, Juliette, you might not get this toward the end of the year. And that's okay. We're going to push that to next year. Take a break, chill out. And so, yeah, all those things combined, it really helps me. That's what helped me get my 4.0 GPA.
Yes, that's
my doctorate.
A system. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, I try to really create those systems, and I try to also look at a strength-based approach. What are my strengths, and not look at weaknesses as weaknesses, but opportunity areas, right? What am I learning in every single season? If I need the space to be mad about it and cry, I will give myself the full space. I don't know how everybody else does it, but I will give myself the full space. Sometimes I have to tell my parents, this doesn't mean I don't have faith, but I got to be mad at God and I got to work this out with God because it's me and him right now. And we got a problem, right? But I have to have that space to get that all out because that allows me to step back and say, okay, Juliette, self, God, what am I learning from this, right? And what do I need from this? Where do I need to grow? What's the wisdom I need? And that's where the self-reflection comes in. And that allows me to apply that in every single project, every single aspect, right? It helps me to move a little bit more with discretion or wisdom or whatever it is. It helps me to seek the counsel that I need, right? Or the mentorship or the coaching. Perhaps it's reading books, perhaps it's conducting research, whatever it is. So yeah, that kind of helps me balance everything. And of course, there's prioritizing. I do have my village that holds me accountable, which I'm blessed about. I've had moments in time where I have people who call me and tell me, did you eat? And that's the love language, y'all. That's the love language. But people reminding me like, did you eat? And so on and so forth. So, and it's always and I do not speak from a place of perfection or completion. I will say that. I speak as a work in progress. So hopefully listeners can take what benefits them from that.
Yeah, no, I'm taking stuff from it because it's so thorough, and it's so practical, and it's so real life. And I love the fact that you started off with, number one, you didn't like the question. Number two, you were honest. You didn't, entrepreneur, X amount of figures a year. Look what I'm doing, and it's people need to hear. You can still go after your goals, your dreams, do your thing, but there's an ugly side, or there's a not so happy side. And
understand the risk that comes with what you're doing.
They need that. Yeah.
There is risk in everything. And there is no award for most overworked male, especially in Black History Month of the year. There is no award for it. So, go ahead, strive, dream, do, right? But you also have to take the time to take care of yourself. And it's easier said than done. That's something, transparently, I struggle with it, but I have the grace for myself because I know that I'm always trying. So some people on the outside looking in, they be like, oh, you're not trying hard enough. And it's like, if you knew where I came from, you wouldn't be singing the same song. But yeah.
It's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
No problem.
Oh, man. All right. So, wow. Yeah, I don't want to. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Yeah. Again, I'm learning. I'm pulling. I'm going back, through this episode, and I'm note taking because this is a learning experience. Absolutely. And these are things that we can apply because, as I said earlier, it's one thing to speak life into a person or to tell them, hey man, everything's possible. Your dreams, your hopes, your visions, whatever God put in your heart, it's possible, because that's kind of what I specialize in, helping people to really, what I call, really have an identity innovation, really, change the way that you see yourself and be able to understand that you really can achieve this thing.
Right.
It's one thing to tell a person that. But what I'm hearing from what you're, sharing, and what's so valuable is the empowering part, is that there are these tools, and that there's these steps, and that there's these processes, and there's this reality to achieving what's possible. Because you can have a person come in and motivate you. Yes, it is possible. And yes, you can do all these things, and God can use you in these amazing ways. And yet there's this practical, real life, every day, wake up and deal with this side of producing what's possible. Yeah. And so that's why I really value, and I really appreciate you telling not only the audience, but telling me.
Yeah. That, if it's too easy, ask more questions. That's what I'll say. If it's too, not to say that there are things that are, but if it's too easy, ask more questions. No, you cannot start a business in 3 easy steps. You can't do it in a day. It takes at least 2 to 3 business days. And you got to get a federal tax ID. And you got to write out your operating agreement and your business plan. Okay. You know what I mean? It's not 2 easy steps.
See.
If they say it's easy, what does easy mean? What is your definition? Like, when a kid tells you, You say, how are your grades? Oh, they're good. What does good mean?
Right. Define good.
C minus. It's
Correct.
It's relative. So
Hey, what is good? What you talking? Yeah,
Mhm.
I love that. Yes. All right. So last question. And I want this to be, I call it just a free flow.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes people think of it in the context of, and not to go south or to go cynical,
Mhm.
but the way I think of it is sort of in that
Mhm.
context of, if I knew, my last day on earth, or if I knew, that I would no longer be here as of this day,
Mhm.
or just even if you're thinking legacy, or even if
Right.
you're thinking contribution,
Mhm.
what is the one thing that, if, out of everything that you could possibly share, I mean,
Mhm.
especially with your background, your experience, your world travel, with your education, I mean, you are packed, you are loaded up. But with all of that, what's the one thing, if the world was listening, if there was a sound system
Mhm.
that literally, once you spoke into this sound system, the world at the same time would hear it? What's one thing that you would want the world to know and to understand?
We need to be kind to ourselves and be kind to others, and love yourself and love others. That's all I want people to understand.
Man.
That's it. Mic drop. That's all I got to say. That's really, I think it informs it. It's the foundation of everything.
Yes.
I try to be intentional. And that's me. I've experienced death, right?
Mhm.
And I've experienced loss, but I didn't die. I need this to be clear. I didn't die and come back. I've experienced losing someone, right?
Yeah,
And I think especially losing my best friend, it was like I can't do the funeral thing, and I can't handle the shock, the immediate shock of having lost someone. So what I'm gonna do about it? If I think of someone, even if I don't call them, I will say a little prayer in that moment. If I love someone, I'm gonna tell them I love them. If I can't stand someone, I will take a moment to process, pray about how best I can say it, but use my words, right? And at least try to see how I can resolve that. I'm not perfect at it, but again, that's where the therapy and the fasting and the prayer comes in. But that's really it. And so me knowing that, I can, if I lost everything today, it would suck. I wouldn't be happy. God, if you're listening, please don't.
Yeah,
But at the same time, if I did, I have no regrets. And that's how I try to live.
That's awesome.
Be
Wow.
kind to yourself, be kind to others, love yourself, love others. Everything will
Yes.
fall into place.
Man, mic drop. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this time, for this moment,
No
for this space.
problem. An honor.
It's been an honor. Yes, yes. I'm telling you, wow. And it was worth the wait. I don't know how long we've been working.
I know.
towards it, but
Oh
it
my
was worth
goodness.
the wait.
Oh, I'm like, oh my goodness, if I have to, my schedule's been crazy, I guess in the first 2 months. So I'm like, oh my gosh, if I reschedule again, I'm not hearing back. So
Right.
I was like, we need to make sure February 11th
Yeah.
happens. So I'm glad we did. I'm very glad.
Absolutely.
And I've been blessed
No.
from hearing from your story and your lens as well. So thank you for sharing. Thank you again so much for having me. And we'll definitely be in touch. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to send your way.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great
Alrighty.
rest of your day. Have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
Okay.